Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching third part of What If Naruto Became the Strongest Man of Elemental Nation. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Naruto took a good look at himself deep in the ravine and saw that his body had changed a lot. He moved his arm back and out. He looked at himself and saw that he was now much taller than he had been before. When he looked at his hair, the black highlights made him raise an eyebrow. When he touched his hair, though, it felt more like a lion's mane. At that moment, he felt a huge amount of power flowing through and around him. It felt like a tornado of power inside him, ready to burst out at any time. When he looked at the broken wall, it made him think. Well, this was a surprise, but that doesn't matter right now. First of all, Konoha took Kushina-chan, which is one reason to destroy them all. However, the way I am right now, one mistake could kill and destroy so many. Then he took out a locket that Iroh had given him before he and Kushina ran away. He knew it too well. When he opened it, he smiled warmly when he saw a picture of himself smiling with Kushina in his arms on the right side. Naruto frowned as he gently touched the picture and said, I have to train and master these powers because if I don't know what would happen if I made even the smallest mistake. But what about Kushina? No, they won't hurt her because she's too precious to them. Those jerks will get theirs. He shut the locket and didn't look at the other picture because it was only for Kushina to see. Plus, he knew what was on the other side. When he looked around, he saw that most of his things had been broken by the fall or the explosion. When he looked in his vest, he saw the scroll Iroh had given him and the one he had used to seal up his and Kushina's own books and scrolls. Naruto put the items back in his vest pocket and looked up at the night sky. He wondered how long he had been down here, but shook his head because he only cared about mastering his powers and getting Kushina back. It's time to start training. The sooner I master them, the sooner I can get Kushi-chan back. With that, Naruto started taking camping supplies out of their packages and making the place where he was supposed to have been killed his new home for the next few years. Konoha would have no idea that their biggest enemy was still alive and living right next to them. Konohagakure Hokage office. It's been 3 days since Sarutobi sent out his students and most of his forces to protect Uzumaki Kushina and kill Uzumaki D. Naruto. Since then, Hiruzen has been very jumpy because he thinks Naruto was killed by his students. Naruto was the one person who scared him the most. Still, he had the feeling that something wasn't right or was out of place. When he looked over at his couch, he saw that Uzumaki Kushina, the last remaining Uzumaki and the person who held the Kyuubi no Kitsune, was still asleep. He heard that the Z-ranked shinobi fought to protect Kushina. All of the stories shocked him to the core. The man fought like he was possessed, and nothing, not jutsu, weapons, taijutsu, or genjutsu, could stop him. Even Jiraiya's summoned thingamabob didn't do anything but make Naruto even more angry. He didn't know what to say when Jiraiya told him how he almost single-handedly took care of Gamabunta. He heard that he took Gamabunta's weapon and swung it back, leaving a scar on the giant toad's left eye. He looked at Kushina and said in a quiet voice, why would that man fight so hard to protect you? I wonder if there was something about you that bothered him or if it was just his own feelings, even though he didn't need to know why a powerful and famous man would protect someone like her. Was it because he was also an Uzumaki? Was that why he was sent there? He didn't understand why the man fought so hard to protect her. He shook his head and went back to his desk to read the reports his spies had sent him from all over the elemental nations. People thought that Konoha was the one who finally killed the legendary man. They said that Konoha sent out a force bigger and stronger than both Iwa and Kumo's forces combined to kill the man, but in reality, the mission was to capture Kushina. True, Konoha got a lot of enemies all at once from countries that thought the man was a hero but weren't brave enough to fight him. But they were called the strongest shinobi village in all of the elemental nations because they were the ones who killed a man who could beat a Biju. Yes, they did some sneaky things, but he's dead now and won't bother or scare them again. right? Hiruzen was thinking while he looked at the reports, but he didn't see the glowing of Jiraiya's seal on Kushina's neck crack halfway through and then go away again. After 10 years. It's been 10 years since Uzumaki d. Naruto, the most hated shinobi in Iwa, Kumo, and Konoha, was killed. Since then, Konoha has been proud of the fact that it is the strongest and has shown it many times in the war. Since Naruto's death, which shocked a lot of people, the war has pretty much stopped everywhere. Though, over the years, Konoha has let their fame make them think they are unbeatable because they killed a god like being a long time ago. Only a few people inside knew how false all of that was, so the man could have easily destroyed them. But after all these years, some strange things have happened in a few countries, including AIM and Kiri. The rumored complete and total defeat of Hanzo the Salamander, and the civil war starting all over again, this time with a new Kage following in the few steps of his predecessor. Since Naruto's death, however, Kumo's hatred for him started to change in a strange way. After what he did against Konoha, it seems that the Raikage finally has a lot of respect for Naruto. Even though they were enemies, the Raikage had a lot of respect for the man because of what he had done to Konoha. The ravine, the place where Naruto was killed, was soon chosen as his tombstone by many countries and feudal lords who were close friends of Naruto. This was because it was the only real place for a powerful being like Naruto to be buried. What better way to remember a man who beat a Biju than to mark the spot where a Biju attacked him and left a big scar? But just one look will shock the nations themselves. The forest of Hai no Kuni road to Konohagakure. A man in a cloak was walking on the dirt road to Konohagakure. He was about 5 feet 8 inches tall, which is about average for a person. The man's whole body was hidden by the cloak. The way the man moved, on the other hand, told a different story than how tall he looked. He moved like a fighter, like an experienced soldier who was ready for any kind of quick attack. Many people would be scared by this, but it's normal in the land of shinobi, so some people just pass it off as normal. The problem was that this man was anything but normal. When the man raised his head a little, you could see how the black cloak cast a shadow over his face. But when he opened his eyes, you could see that they were. The eyes would make anyone feel like an ant facing a huge tsunami, whether they were a civilian, a shinobi, a Kage, or even Biju. The man's huge, golden amber eyes with slits in them told you right away that he wasn't normal. It almost screamed, danger. And would have killed a weaker man out of pure fear. Every time he took a step, the wind would blow by him, making his cloak flap and the trees rustle. Every time he looked toward Konoha, which was getting closer and closer, his eyes lit up with a great, hot, black hate that made even the skies part. When his body seemed to move in a strange wind, the ground would slowly start to crack or the trees would start to fall over. I'm coming, Kushi-chan. Soon, we'll be together again, and I won't let you, Iroh, or anyone else down this time. The mere sight of this man was about to shake Konoha to its very core. Konoha main gates. 2 Chunin were on guard duty at the gates. Guard duty is the job that shinobi hate the most. It was the dullest thing a shinobi ever had to do. The only thing that made these 2 Chunin different was that now, their job as guards was about to get interesting. A gust of wind blew past them as a black-cloaked figure came into view. Seeing the strange black-cloaked figure made them both feel tense. Since there was a war going on, they were wary of everything around them. When the man in the cloak got close, though, they were relieved to see that he looked like a normal person. That was a big mistake because you can't judge a book by its cover. The man raised his head and flashed his eyes at them. Suddenly, a gust of wind hit them, and they both jumped back and passed out. Their eyes rolled to the back of their heads, and foam came out of their mouths. The man shook his head as he looked down at the Chunin and didn't like what he saw. Before he went into the village, the man only said one word, pathetic. He did this to hide his signature from the shinobi and barrier watchers who were patrolling. As the man walked into Konoha, he quickly looked at everything in front of him and memorized it all. He saw the civilians, the shinobi who were walking around, and the kids all playing as if nothing was going on outside the walls. Around him, he could see that they were happy and carefree by the smiles on their faces. The fools are proud because they think they can't lose, and all because of a simple lie. His mouth was full of disgust and anger, and when he saw the Uzu no Kuni symbols on their backs, the hate in his eyes went through the roof. The man then shut his eyes and used his chakra senses to try to find the one person he had come for. The only reaction that could be seen was a slight widening of his eyes, but there were also flashes of anger in his eyes before his body just vanished in a gust of wind. The man's cloaked form was seen up in a tree, looking down at what looked like a training ground. But what he was looking at was what mattered, because there were a total of 8 people, and 2 of them were Junin shinobi. He knew that Jiraiya of the Sennin and Tsukumo Hitaki were the 2 Junin shinobi. When he looked at the others, he saw a group of teenagers that he didn't care much about at the moment. Right now, he only cared about the 2 people sparring in the middle of the training grounds. The first one made him a little surprised, but he got over it. It was a teenager with golden spiky hair and 2 long bangs that fell on either side of his face. His eyes were a deep blue. He was wearing a chunin vest, blue shinobi pants, and a long-sleeved blue shinobi shirt over which the vest was worn. He finished off the look with blue shinobi sandals and a kunai pouch on his left thigh. He was most worried about the other person, though, because the person he was looking at was losing pretty badly. It was a woman who, in every way, was the best. She was 5 feet 8 inches tall and had long, silky, maroon hair. Her face was shaped like a heart, and her eyes were the most beautiful shade of violet anyone had ever seen. She was the perfect size and shape, and her bust was at least a small D cup. She was dressed like everyone else in Konoha. As he looked at her, he noticed a dark mark on the back of her neck that most people couldn't see, but to him it was as clear as day. So, knowing what kind of seal it was made him angry, but he could see that it was already damaged and on its way to breaking. This made him laugh because he knew that Jiraiya was the only one who could have put that seal on the woman, and he did a terrible job of it. You've grown so beautiful and strong, Kushina, but that seal blocks all the power and knowledge you had back then. Also have memories of me. Ah. A woman's shout stopped him from thinking, and when he looked down, his eyes lit up when he saw the blonde man teen making hand seals toward Kushina, who was on the ground and exhausted. He did something when he saw the hand seals and saw that Jiraiya was letting it happen. Jiraiya thought to himself as he watched what his student was about to do, I don't want to do this, but sensei told me to hold her down, even if it hurts. He saw that Tsukumo was about to jump in, so he glared at him and said, no. When Minato called out his jutsu, he saw the speed black blur come out of the forest. Raiden. Taru no Hanma. Lightning release. Thor's hammer, he said, and a huge lightning-shaped hammer shot out of the sky toward Kushina. It wouldn't kill her, but it would definitely hurt her a lot. Too bad, since Jiraiya's back was turned to Kushina when he suddenly appeared in front of her in the form of a black blur. When they saw this, they all tried to stop the jutsu that was coming, but it looks like Minato put a little too much chakra into that attack. Kushina saw this man in a cloak walk up to her and get ready to take the hit that was meant for her. Until she heard the man's voice. She heard him say, don't worry, Kushina-chan. I won't let you get hurt anymore. It confused her, but when the lightning hammer came at them, she held her head in pain because she thought she had heard this voice before. Flashback. Come on, Kushina-chan. I know you're stronger than this. Kushina-chan, you can do it. You're strong, and I believe in you. Kushi-chan, you're getting stronger. Soon you'll catch up to me. I love you. Kushi-chan. Never forget. I'll always love you. Kushi-heim. Never forget me. The same voice said again, showing who this person was. It was a man who looked almost exactly like Minato, but he seemed much friendlier than Namikaze, who was crazy about being Hokage. His golden-flecked blue eyes looked at her with a love she had never felt before. That is, until he talked again. Kushina, do you remember the promise we made to each other when we were kids? Then, to her surprise, she saw her 8-year-old self standing in front of her. Before she spoke, she saw her smile widely. Of course I do. We promised we would get married when we were older and I always keep my promises, Databane. Run. Her younger self yelled before she saw the man smile and open his arms. She was confused by what she saw and shocked when her younger self ran up to him and kissed his cheek. She didn't know why, but she got a blush on her face. When she looked at the man's whole body, he was so handsome.
She could see how his clothes held his body in place and how his muscled and chiseled body stretched the fabric of his clothes.
She felt someone looking at her, and when she looked up, she was shocked to see her younger self and the blonde Adonis laughing at her. Kushina, it's time you woke up. Please wake up and remember, the blonde man said, and then her younger self took over. Who you really are, and remember that the person we both loved years ago and who is now by your side. And with one last look at each other, they both spoke at the same time. Awaken Kushina. End of flashback. The seal on the back of Kushina's neck lit up quickly and cracked more as it did so. Shattered. Kushina all of a sudden saw so much, remembered where she had been, who she really was, who her father was, and everything else. The last thing she could remember was kissing Naruto before Tsunade took her away from him. When the seal broke, Kyuubi, who used to be a bloodlust Biju, was confused by the sudden rush of memories in her mindscape. When they were finally out of sight, its huge red eyes got very big. Then its giant nine-tailed form shrank and turned into a more human-like shape. When the light went out, it revealed a beautiful woman who looked just like Kushina. She had the body of a goddess. Anyone, straight or gay, would get a nosebleed looking at her perfect hourglass figure. Her royal blood-red kimono barely covered up much of her D-cup bust, but it did show a lot of her cleavage. Her long, smooth, red hair was a little bit lighter than Kushina's. Her face was perfectly carved, and her eyes were crimson red with a slit in the middle like a fox's. The goddess-like woman spoke with a smirk and a show of her unusually large teeth. I knew Naru-kun would come back, and from what I can tell about him, he's gotten a lot stronger since 10 years ago. On the outside world, Kushina quickly blinked her eyes and turned her head until she remembered where she was and what was going on. When she looked up, her eyes got bigger when she saw the Raiden Jutsu right next to the cloaked man she knew was Naruto. GGGE, but he was cut off when the man started talking again. Don't worry, you might need to remember a little more, but something as silly as this. Can't even scratch me, he said, even though he knew the seal on her neck was gone. He raised his right hand with the palm facing out. She didn't say anything. I wouldn't feel much from something weak, he said. Then, to her shock and Kyuubi's surprise, he swung his hand. Minato, Jiraiya, Sakumo, and the others were on the other side of the giant jutsu. They were horrified by what was about to happen. That guy needs to leave. Minato said that he didn't want an accident to cause the death of a civilian. I agree, especially since that kind of jutsu could kill both him and Kushina. Sakumo said. Wait, something doesn't seem right, Jiraiya said with his eyes narrowed. This made everyone look at the teen with long black hair and coal black eyes who was wearing the same outfit as Kushina, Uchiha Makoto, and Kushina's best friend. What do you mean? All it took was a sound for Jiraiya's eyes to open wide, and she and the others followed his gaze to see what he was looking at. The stranger in the cloak slowly sliced the giant lightning-shaped hammer in half with his hand. They watched as the man just swatted away one of the most dangerous Raiden jutsu they had ever heard of. Many people looked at what they had just seen, but the sudden explosion from the broken jutsu sent smoke around the cloaked man and Kushina. As the smoke cleared, The man in the cloak was still standing where he was, and Kushina was looking at him with so many different feelings that it was impossible to tell which one she was feeling. For some reason, her eyes filled with tears, which made the Konoha nin confused. "And Naruto-kun?" she said hesitantly, wanting to know if the cloaked person in front of her was the same person she remembered from the sudden rush of memories as the one she made that promise to, the one she was in love with all those years ago. Before Konoha took them apart. Only one of the Konoha nin believed what she said. Jiraiya's eyes were as wide as they could be, and when he heard that man's name, he could see a small flash of fear in them. The name of that man was erased from all records and bingo books so that the next generation would never know who scared the great Konohagakure so much. So, Jiraiya stared at the figure in the cloak with a look of intense concentration that had never been seen on the pervert's face before. Tsukumo saw this and became very worried about what was going to happen next. He had known about Naruto's legendary status and actions in the war since he was a child, when he was still a child himself. Even though he had never met the man, he knew that even he couldn't win that fight, no matter how strong he was. You can't beat someone who has already beaten a Biju on their own. Naruto heard Kushina, and a warm feeling spread through his once cold, emotionless body. For the past 10 years, he has kept his heart closed and focused on getting stronger by always training and never stopping. To get stronger and win back the person he loved most, even if that meant regaining his title as the most feared person in all of the shinobi nations. So it was a quick surprise when Naruto's cloaked form turned to Kushina and kneeled down in front of her. He told her, "I told you I would come back for you, Kushi-hime. It just took me a little longer than I thought it would," but she didn't care. She just smiled happily as tears ran down her face. She didn't care how long it took Naruto to come back for her. She only cared that he was with her now and wouldn't leave her again. Even though she wondered what changes he had gone through in the last 10 years, she still knew it was Naruto because he still had the same familiarity and power he had when she was a child, even though he was much stronger and better able to control himself. Even though when she looked at his shadowed face and saw his eyes, she felt a chill go down her spine, she wasn't afraid of them. In fact, she thought they made the mental image of him she had from 10 years ago even more handsome. "Naruto-kun, can I see your face? It's been so long since I've seen you, and I want to see it again. I want to see the face of the same man I fell in love with all those years ago," she said, as Naruto gently took her hand and rubbed circles on it with his thumb. "My looks. You want to see them?" She gave him a nod, and with a flick of his wrist, his hood fell off, revealing the face of Uzumaki D. Naruto is also known as the Kami no Saigai to Sen's, which means God of Disaster and War. He was the first shinobi in history to get the Z rank. Jiraiya's face turned completely horrified, and he paled quickly. It was like he was looking at a ghost from 10 years ago, because the kid hadn't changed at all. Naruto's face and everything else were the same as they were 10 years ago. Kushina, on the other hand, could tell that he was wearing a disguise, which made her frown. When her memories of that time came back, her fiery personality from then came back to life, making the Kushina that Konoha knows look weak. When she was about to say something, Naruto put his hand over her mouth to stop her. "Wait, Kushi-chan, first we have to deal with these jerks. Konoha should pay for taking you away from me, and they will pay," he said, his eyes hidden by his hair. Kushina's violet eyes got softer before she blinked and frowned over her team. She never understood why most of them had that look in their eyes when they talked or when they met for the first time in the academy, but she was sure that they were set up to be friends with her so she would feel welcome in the village. Even now, Makoto Uchiha was the only person she could still trust. Even though she was from Konoha, Makoto Uchiha was still the most loyal person she had ever met. She had no way of letting Naruto kill her. "Naru-kun, please don't hurt Makoto. That's all I ask of you," she said to get his attention. Looking down at the red head in his arms, he snapped his gaze at the Uchiha and made a mental note not to kill her. "But I'll be watching you." "Alright, then. You have my word, he said, but their moment was ruined when someone yelled. You. What are you doing here? I thought we killed you. Jiraiya screamed because she was scared and angry. Before asking, Minato looked at his sensei to see what he would say. What's wrong, sensei? Who is he? How does he even know who Kushina Baka is? He said, but then he felt an unbearable weight on him that made him gasp. When he turned his head in that direction, he saw not only Naruto's golden amber eyes with slits in them, but also Kushina's violet ones. Did you just call me a Baka Namikaze? Namikaze. Kushina spat out the word like it was poison. Minato took a loud gulp. Don't worry, Kushi-chan. He's no big deal. He's just as weak and pathetic as the rest of Konoha's shinobi, Naruto told Kushi-chan, knowing that he had insulted Konoha in front of one of its own shinobi. When the teen named Minato growled at him, he got the response he wanted. What did you say? Why make fun of Konoha? What have we done wrong? Naruto only blinked once before laughing, and Kushina stood up to watch as Naruto's laugh went from funny to hollow. Many of them felt shivers when they heard it, especially when Konoha and what they had done to him were mentioned, and his eyes seemed to glow slightly. Do you want to know what happened to me? Hee hee, boy, you don't know. He yelled at the teen, which made him step back. Since I became a shinobi, Konoha has almost always made me angry. Since 100 years ago, they have lied, stolen, and betrayed me in Kushina's clan. This time, he yelled louder. All of the Konoha nin looked shocked, except Jiraiya, who had a serious expression on his face. They've made me very angry over the years, but taking Kushina away from me was the last straw, he said quietly as he gripped his cloak. All of them caught it, as did Kushina. When they took her away from me 10 years ago, they pretty much killed any chance of salvation and sealed their fate. I will give them their punishment. With that, Naruto took off his cloak and yelled, Kai. All of the Konoha nin, except for Kushina and Mikoto, were hit by a huge pressure. As the smoke grew, they all saw a huge shadow in front of them, and something like pressure stopped being there. All of them saw what looked like a handle sticking out of his shoulder, which made them think it was some kind of weapon. But when the smoke finally went away, Kushina's face lit up like a Christmas tree, making even the sun look like it was dying, while Mikoto's face had a small pink tint that grew with every second. Kushina could hear her old friend Kyuubi screaming when he saw what Naruto really looked like. By Kami. He's like a big, hot Adonis. Kushi-chan, you should figure out a way for me to get out of here. The normally calm Kyuubi was now as horny as hell, and Kushina's blushing face shouted in her head. Q-chan. I never knew you liked Naru-kun too. Well, Kyuubi said, we can talk about this later. But Kushina already had a big smile on her mind when she realized that her best and oldest friend had feelings for her, Naruto. She looked at Naruto, who had just shown up and made her very happy. She knew he was hiding his real look, but she didn't know what else he was hiding. This. For in front of her and everyone else was a man who, by all accounts, was a giant. He stood at least 25 feet tall and was very muscular. Very strong. If you could see his muscles, they would be the size of small boulders. His skin was a little on the pale side, and it was a little darker than it had been before, but it was still the same color as Kushina's. His 12-pack and pecs were out in the open for everyone to see, and you could tell that if you hit him with a sledgehammer, it would break. His face was sharp and chiseled to perfection, like it was made by the gods. His big arms were almost the same width as a normal-sized person. Kushina also noticed that his hair had changed. To her surprise, it was now golden with black highlights. The spikes were still there, but they were a little less wild. His hair was long, and some of it went over his eyes and past his neck. Even though his golden amber, slit-shaped eyes now looked much stronger, which made him look even scarier. When they saw what he was wearing, they knew he had to take care of himself. Because he was so big, Naruto had to learn a few trades, like blacksmithing and tailoring, to take care of his feet. For now, he was wearing clothes that he had made himself, starting with his black combat boots with a black steel plate on top. Next were his black cargo pants. They had the same metal plating, but this time it was built into the pants, making them much stronger and faster. Next, his chest was bare except for a large, torn, golden coat that hung loosely over his shoulders and ended in torn-off sleeves. On the back of the coat was the symbol for the Uzumaki clan in all its glory, along with the symbols for Protector and Guardian. Last, he had a red pauldron with a design of some kind of demon with curved horns on his right shoulder. Its mouth was wide open, which looked like it was yelling in fear. Then they saw the sword handle sticking out of the man's pauldron and wondered what he was hiding behind his back. But Kushina and Kyuubi could see it as clear as day, and Kushina was trying hard not to drool over what she was seeing. Since she had always been a kenjutsu master at heart, with her fuinjutsu coming out first, the weapon she saw on Naruto's back was definitely incredible. By the gods above, Naru-kun got that weapon of all things. Kami is really on his side. Q-chan, do you recognize that weapon? Yes, hell and most of heaven know what that weapon is because it's in the stories. However, that blade was used by a being who fought demons and angels a long time ago. Wow, what's the name of that sword? Its name is rarely mentioned because it gives many demons bad dreams and makes most of heaven hate it. Its name is Chaos Eater. When the demon said that, a chill of excitement went down her spine when she saw the blade of legend on her container's back. She didn't know how Naruto got such a weapon, but it made her want him even more right now. The huge weapon on Naruto's back looked like a giant Zanbato, but it was made in a very different way. Its bladed side was curved, and from the double-sided blade came two short spikes. When you look closely, you can see that its inside was pretty scary. It showed the faces of what looked like ghostly souls screaming forever in what looked like torment, anguish, pain, or all of those things. It was 20 feet long and 5 feet wide. The final touch was that the sword itself had a faint yellow glow. As the smoke finally cleared, Naruto walked over to Kushina and got down on one knee. This time, he looked just like himself. He didn't care about how the other Konoha nin looked at him, but he liked how scared Jiraiya was and couldn't wait to crush the man into the ground. Kushi-chan, he said, but his voice was lower than she remembered. When she looked up, she saw Naruto, the person she loved with all her heart, smiling back at her. It's time to leave Konoha, he said, holding out his hand. She quickly grabbed it, and with a small eep from her, he pulled her up until her shaky legs were standing straight. Kushina looked at Naruto, or more accurately, she looked up at him. She could see that she was about the same height as his legs, which made her a little annoyed on the inside. She was feeling small. Naru-kun, what about all of Konoha? I can feel the Konoha shinobi coming together here. What do we do? She asked, but all he did was give her a grim smile. Let them come. I said I would protect you, and I meant it. I haven't been doing my job for the last 10 years, and I won't keep doing that. Konoha can try to take you away from me, but I'll kill anyone or anything that does. I said I would go through hell's 9 levels of torture and back 100 times to get you, and I meant it. He said, ending his sentence with so much feeling that it made her tear up and smile with happiness. Thank you, Naruto-kun, she said over and over again as she wiped her tears away. Naruto smiled and nodded, then narrowed his eyes. Jiraiya yelled, die. As she appeared over Naruto and made hand seals. Kuchiyose no jutsu. Then, a huge shadow fell over Naruto, and Kushina looked up a little. Naruto and Kushina saw the giant toad Gamabunta's body coming down toward them. Its eye was full of confusion when it was called so quickly. With only a second to go, Naruto said, "Kushi-chan, grab my leg." She did it quickly, not knowing what Naruto was going to do. As the big toad came down, Makoto watched as Tsukumo and Sume held her back. Kushina. Makoto yelled as Naruto and her were about to be crushed by a toad. Then something unbelievable happened. Gamabunta's fall was stopped, and the toad knew something was wrong. Jiraiya, who was desperate and scared, also found something was wrong. Then, about 25 feet above the ground, they saw Gamabunta's body. But we're not going any lower. To call this little toad, Jiraiya, you must be desperate to kill me. But you should, because I didn't physically kill a Biju for nothing, you know, said a voice that filled Jiraiya with fear with every word. Naruto was looking under Gamabunta, and Kushina was holding his leg and looking up with wonder in her eyes. What happened? Well, Naruto's right hand might have been in the air, holding Gamabunta's body in the air like it was nothing, and Naruto's face might have looked bored. But that couldn't be it. Right? Holy Kami. Tsukumo said, trying to get rid of the doubt in his eyes. He couldn't believe it, but there was a man in front of him holding Gamabunta's body, which was the size of a Biju, in the air. Only with one hand. Makoto was also shocked. She stared in awe at the giant who looked like a god. This important person to Kushina was holding a toad as big as Gamabunta in the air like it was nothing. Every second that went by made her want to know more about him. Gamabunta is heavier than I remembered, I said. So, here, I think this is yours. Naruto said, and then he threw Gamabunta away with a swing of his arm. I am talking about flying. The giant toad was thrown right over the Konoha shinobi and into the forest, where it skidded back and destroyed trees and the ground. That is, until it ran into the Konoha wall and disappeared. Jiraiya fell to the ground in shock. He had jumped off Gamabunta at the right time, but now he was standing right in front of the man he feared the most. His eyes were staring down at him, making him feel like he was suffocating under the huge weight of power. Compared to a lion, it really felt like an ant. You're pathetic, Jiraiya, your fear is all over you. What a disappointment you are. Without waiting for a response from the scared shitless Sennin, Naruto pushed the man away with his backhand. The man went flying into the forest, crashing into many trees. This surprised a lot of people, since Jiraiya, a Sennin, was just hit in the back with a backhand and beat up quickly. And he made it look as easy as taking a breath. Wow, Naru-kun, that was so cool. She yelled with the joy of a child. I mean, you don't see a shinobi like Jiraiya being treated like that every day. Meh. Jiraiya is pathetic. He may be a good shinobi, but he relies too much on his summons and not enough on his own skills, he said as he looked at the other Konoha shinobi. Kushina saw this and gave Makoto a look that said, I know what you're up to. Until she spoke, he was looking for something. Naru-kun, do you remember when I told you to be kind to Makoto? Would it be okay if you took her with you? If there was one person I'd want to take away from this corrupted, arrogant village, it would be her, she said. This shocked Makoto a lot, and Naruto just looked at Kushina for a minute. But she's from Konoha. Can we trust her? He asked, and she just nodded. Yes, Makoto-chan is the only person I would trust with my whole heart, she said with a smile. When Naruto saw this, he closed his eyes and gave a nod. Fine, but what about the others? He asked, making the others nervous. Won't be treated the same way. And with that, Naruto's eyes snapped to them, and in the blink of an eye, Tsukumo, Sume, and Jiraiya's students were all dead, just like the gate guards. Minato, who called himself a shinobi genius and had a strong will, was lying back with his eyes rolled back in his head and his mouth foaming. Again. Pathetic, he said with disgust, and then he looked at Makoto with piercing eyes that made the girl fidget. Kushina, go talk to her. Ask her why she's so hesitant to come. But hurry, I can feel many shinobi coming, and I'd rather get out of here soon, he told her. She nodded, so Kushina went to Makoto and started asking her why she was so hesitant to leave. As she did this, Naruto turned his attention to Minato and walked over to the sleeping teen. With a deadly serious look in his eyes, he grabbed him by the neck and lifted him up. I can tell that this one has hurt Kushina for a while now. He also needs to be punished. With that, Naruto balled up his boulder-sized fist and let go of Minato. He then swung his fist and hit the Namikaze in the stomach, sending him flying through the forest like a speeding missile and breaking trees along the way. That'll show him, he said, and then he looked over his shoulder and into the woods because he felt like someone was watching them. Then, in the forest, many chakra signatures showed up. 300, number, 400, and Sandaime himself. Hey, perfect, he said with a sly grin on his face. Kushina saw this and wondered what he meant, but the way he was grinning made her feel a little hot. That's the smile of a demon. Yes, it does. It kind of makes me think of you when we first met, but on him, it makes him look feral? Handsome? Godly perhaps? More like a demonic sexy Adonis. Naruto spoke, but he didn't know what was being said about him. Kushi-chan, hurry up. We've got company, Hiruzen Sarutobi Sandaime Hokage said. After he said this, many feet stomped on the ground, showing the arrival of many Konoha shinobi, including Orochimaru, Senju Tsunade, the other two Sennin, their senseis, and Hiruzen Sarutobi Sandaime Hokage, who called himself Kami no Shinobi. Then they all saw the damage on the grounds, but what brought them there was bigger than them. Many people turned deathly pale when they saw the man. He looked scary, and his eyes didn't help at all. In fact, a few people who looked into his eyes fell over and passed out because they were so angry. Hiruzen was looking at the giant man with a very curious look on his face. It wasn't every day that he saw a man that tall, and the way the man's aura just gave off power told him that this man was different. That is, until he heard his student Tsunade gasp. When he looked at her, he saw that she was as pale as death, while his best student, Orochimaru, had his eyes as wide as they could go to show he couldn't believe it. He heard Tsunade say, "It can't be. He's supposed to be dead." This made him feel a little on edge for some reason. Oh, they've all come together? Good, then I won't have to herd you all down. Naruto said. He started walking toward them with a bloodthirsty look in his eyes, which scared many shinobi to the point that they had to pee themselves. Who are you, foreigner? Hiruzen was clearly confused about who this man was, but seeing how scared his students were made him feel a little more nervous than he was before. Naruto just looked at Hiruzen for a moment, which made the cage stop in his tracks. The golden amber slits in Naruto's eyes made the cage feel something he'd never felt before, an overwhelming sense of power. He told him he would flatten and crush him like he was trash. Who am I? Boy, Hiruzen, you're getting old and forgetful. If you read the bingo books, you'd know who I am, but I was killed by your students, so it doesn't matter. Do you remember what happened 10 years ago? He asked, his eyes shining with satisfaction as he watched Hiruzen go white as a sheet at what Naruto had just said. No, it can't be, no, it's impossible, he said, denying that it was true. There was no way that it could be true. Yes, you're right, or let me explain it to you. My name is Uzumaki D. Naruto, also known as the Kami no Saigai to Sen's, god of disaster and war, and your worst nightmare. Using a demonic shout to end it. Naruto just told everyone about it. That he was back and ready to cause trouble again. You. No, it's can't nay. Hiruzen said that what he was hearing made him feel sick. That's right, fool. I'm back and ready to take Kushina-chan away from here the way you took her from me 10 years ago. With that, Naruto took a step forward, and the next thing anyone knew, Kushina-chan was gone. Naruto was in front of Orochimaru, and his fist was already in the snake man's stomach. As Orochimaru screamed in pain, the sound of his ribs breaking and cracking could be heard all around. Naruto was too slow to act, so Orochimaru's jaw broke when his other fist hit it. The pale man was also thrown into the air. As the Sennin was in the air, Naruto pulled back his other fist and used his right hand to block Tsunade's chakra-boosted punch, which sent a shockwave from behind him. He pulled it down and slammed Orochimaru into the ground, making a big hole. Taking into account how shocked they were, Naruto turned around and gave Tsunade a kick that broke her left leg and sent her into 2 trees. After that, he turns his head and glares at the group of Konoha shinobi who are coming toward him. Then, he sent out a huge pulse that hit the group of shinobi and knocked them out with a sudden mental attack. Then, without warning, he slammed his right foot into the ground, making a shockwave before a small upheaval of earth shot up and hit many other shinobi who were about to send their own jutsu from far away. Hiruzen saw this man, who was not a monster, take out his students and shinobi like it was nothing. This happened in just a few minutes. It did scare him a little, but he had to act like he wasn't afraid. Even though his enemy was almost a monster to humans and a god to shinobi. Something he really wondered about himself when he saw such a show. With Kushina and Makoto. "Wow, that guy is strong," exclaimed Makoto, shocked by what she had just seen. This guy just beat 3 Sennin, one of whom is stronger than all the Sennin put together, and now hundreds of shinobi like it was nothing. Her interest in him went through the roof, and she could see in her eyes that she was amazed by what he had done so far. "Hee, trust me, I was the same way when I was young and saw him fight Tu-san. Naru-kun is very, very strong, and I want to be with him every step of the way for the rest of our lives," Kushina said with a small laugh when she saw her friend's mouth open wide. "Wow, you love him a lot, don't you? I still can't believe Konoha put that kind of seal on you," she said, thinking back to what Kushina had told her about the seal that kept her true memories hidden. She thought it was disgusting that Konoha would do something so dirty just to get Kushina. Yes, she knew that Kushina belonged to the Uzumaki clan. She also just found out recently that she is the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. But Kushina was surprised that Makoto still thought of her as a friend. This made her feel a lot better. Makoto heard Kushina sigh happily as she looked at the giant man she loved. "Yes, I love him as much as he loves me. You know, the first time we met, I was only 2 years old. From that day on, we've been together," she said. "I never let go of him. I held on to him like he was my teddy bear. But now he really does look like my big stuffed teddy bear," she said with a childlike grin. Makoto smiled and rolled her eyes. The Kushina was still there, but it was much calmer than the energy ball she used to know it was. "But, if I know Naru-kun, and if what you told me about your clan is true, he'll take you away from here even if he has to kill and destroy everything in his way. He might not trust you right now because you're from Konoha, but he will in time. So, will you come with us?" she asked Makoto. The Uchiha closed her eyes and thought about what Kushina had said. He said that this man was strong enough to face all of Konoha by himself and would go through armies to do what he wanted to do. At first, she didn't believe him, but when she heard who he said he was and saw him throw a summon the size of Gamabunta with just one hand, she quickly came to believe him. "Well, then, if he can help me, I won't hesitate for a second to follow him," she said with a determined look in her cold black eyes. Kushina's face lit up with a huge smile. She really wanted Makoto to come with her and Naruto for some reason, and she just got what she wanted. She yelled, "Woohoo!" and hugged Makoto tightly. Even though she had a smile on her face and knew her friend was in good hands, the black-haired teen was trying to calm down her very excited friend. Together, Naruto and Hiruzen. When Naruto heard Kushina's exclamation, he softly laughed and said, "It looks like this." Makoto will be coming with them. Then he turned his attention to his last problem, the person he hated the most. The man who took Kushina away from him 10 years ago and also betrayed the Uzumaki clan, just like his sensei did before him. He wanted to rip out this man's spinal cord and break his neck if he had to look at him any longer. No. I'm going to make Hiruzen feel pain, true pain. No use making it quick. When Naruto looked at him with those eyes like a predator, Hiruzen felt a cold chill go down his spine. Sarutobi Hiruzen, you're the last one. I know there are more shinobi in your village than here, but I'll just kill them, too. Nothing will stop me from leaving with Kushina. Not you, not your daimyo, and definitely not your pathetic excuse of a shinobi, he said, making Hiruzen angry with each jab at his village. You may be strong, but that doesn't mean I can't beat you. This may be the first time we've met, but I doubt you have as much power as the rumors say you do, he said as a joke, even though he knew that everything said about him was true. But he did everything he could to get Naruto to let his guard down just a little. With his eyes narrowed, Naruto said, like I give a damn. I don't care what people say about me. Even though I am a human, I have gone beyond what a mortal can do and done the impossible many times over the years. Like when I beat the Hachibi. I did that battle because I wanted to get stronger. I used everything I had, I went all out, and I still do. This confused Hiruzen. Why go to such lengths to get stronger? He asked. You're already seen as something like a god or a deity, so why go so far? This was the first thing he thought of when he heard about the man in front of him. How he fought and got stronger. The way he was always stronger than he was before, and how he would do the impossible and win even when he was outnumbered. Naruto looked at Kushina and said, I fight for the reason I live. You could say my purpose is to get stronger and protect the people I care about, and right now Kushina Uzumaki is the most important person in the whole world to me. You made a mistake, Sarutobi, when you took her away from me. When Sarutobi figured out what Naruto meant, he smiled to himself. So. Kushina is his Achilles heel. Then would you really put her life in danger? He asked, thinking he had Naruto in a corner. Naruto's eyes glowed with a murderous light, and his body started to shimmer in a strange way. The ground cracked around him, and the trees moved in the sudden winds that were all around him. The sky was spinning above him, making it look like a huge black cloud with lightning and wind. You dare to put her life in danger? Hiruzen, you are a fool. With that, Naruto moved his head just a little bit, and Sarutobi ran right at him, shinobi armor and all. Hiruzen said while he did a few hand seals. Kaiten. Carry Enden. Fire release. Fire Dragon Flame Missile. A stream of fire shot out of Sarutobi's mouth and turned into a huge roaring dragon made of blazing hot flames. It flew across the field so fast that it burned the grass and made the trees catch fire from the heat. But as the dragon got closer to Naruto, it stopped. The said Uzumaki just stared straight into the yellow eyes of the coming dragon without any fear. Naruto said one word that Hiruzen heard very clearly. Pathetic. With a swipe of his hand, Naruto split the dragon down the middle, revealing his bored face and the cigarette in his right hand. Hiruzen couldn't believe what he was seeing. That was his strongest jutsu, and he was sure it would hurt him at least. As his fear of this giant grew, he started to feel like he was running out of time. This made his stomach twist and turn in a knot. A jutsu like that is pathetic. At age 9, I was already making techniques like that better and more advanced. His enemy's demonic voice rang through the area, making him even more afraid. Hiruzen jumped back and made a hand seal. Kage Bushin no Jutsu. When he said that, a copy of himself appeared next to him. They both reached into their pockets and threw their arms out, sending several shuriken and kunai at Naruto's huge body. They both shouted as they did hand seals at the same speed. Kage Shuriken no Jutsu, Kage Kunai no Jutsu. making the shuriken and kunai multiply from 10 to 100 of each and fly straight at Naruto, casting a dark shadow over him. As the weapons rained down on him, he laughed. Using these kinds of tricks. Again, it's pathetic. Kushina and Makoto were horrified as a barrage of weapons fell on him. Kushina remembers that after Naruto's hard training, weapons didn't hurt him much. However, if a lot of weapons were thrown at him at once, they could hurt him a lot. She yelled, "Naruto-kun, get out of the way." Naruto heard her, but all he did was smile and talk. "Don't worry about it. Just watch Kushi-chan. I haven't done anything for 10 years. With that, the sounds of shuriken and kunai met. Several thumps? They all looked shocked as every single shuriken and kunai that hit Naruto from where it was supposed to stab or scratch him just went right off of him without leaving a mark, no cut, no stab, no blood, nothing. It was like Naruto took a shower in metal instead of water. Hiruzen's hopelessness grew when he saw that Naruto wasn't hurt at all by the weapons, and his fear grew when Naruto looked at him. He did a few more hand seals before slamming his hands down on the ground, which knocked out the kage bushin. "Try to beat me with this." When Sarutobi said, "Kuchiyose no Jutsu, ENK, Enma." Monkey King. Enma. A puff of smoke came out of his hand, revealing a monkey the size of a person with white hair and a beard. This made Naruto smile. He could finally fight Sarutobi at his strongest and then break him at his strongest. Oh, it's going to feel so good when Sarutobi's only chance of winning this fight is crushed under my feet. Enma slowly adjusted his eyes after the quick summon, and when he did, he saw his summoner in a state he had never seen before. The fear was there, but why? When his summoner looked at what was in front of him, he knew exactly why. "Please tell me, Hiruzen, that you didn't just call me to fight this guy," said the deadly calm summon. He already knew who this man was. In fact, the whole summon realm knew, since he was the one who had shook the realm by beating a Biju as strong as Hachibi. That was talked about in both the elemental nation and the summoning realm. In and of itself, this gave Naruto a lot of respect from the bosses he summoned, since no one in history had ever heard of a human beating a Biju with only his physical strength and taijutsu. "I'm sorry, Enma, but I know that the only way to beat him is to have you fight with me. Because if I don't, I'll probably die," he reluctantly said. Enma just grunted, "Sarutobi, I don't know if I should just leave right now. This man in front of us is highly respected not only in your realm but also in the summon realm, since his feats have reached us as well. But since you're the only clan summoner I have, I'll have to help you." The old Kage grimaced. "Thank you, and let's start," he said, as Enma jumped on top of Sarutobi and made his own hand seals. Henge. Kongnoi. Transformation. Adamantine staff, Enma said, and in a puff of smoke, he changed into a 6-foot-long staff that was mostly black and had dark yellow tips. When it fell, Hiruzen grabbed it and spun it around before taking a stance and glaring at the face of the enemy he had wronged, but it was for the good of Konoha. A gun? You want to fight me with that kind of weapon? So, I'll let you fight with Chaos Eater, he said as he slowly moved his right handle to the giant leather-wrapped handle of what Sarutobi now realizes as some kind of weapon. With Kushina and Makoto, they were amazed to see Naruto keep Hiruzen the Kami no Shinobi in a corner without even moving. Kushina's big, bright smile could make even the sun turn green with envy. Makoto was also smiling as she watched the person who might help her leave her cursed clan throw around Konoha's cage like a ragdoll and make him look like a child. Ooh, Naru going Kunz to draw it. I want to see. Kyuubi kept yelling over and over, like a child who wants its favorite toy. Kushina thought to herself, Q-chan, you have no idea how cute you just sounded when you said that, he, and grinned. Shut up, said a flustered Kyuubi when Naruto said he was going to draw his weapon. She really couldn't keep it together. She wanted to see him use the weapon so badly that she wanted him to pull it out quickly and carve up the old man like a pumpkin. When Naruto's hand grabbed the leather handle, a sudden pulse of power resounded from his back, cracking the ground under him and causing many trees to break. Hiruzen Enma, this is Chaos Eater, he said as he pulled the huge Zanbato demon weapon from his back. And in that slowest drawing ever, Hiruzen appeared below Naruto just as he was swinging his staff toward Naruto's stomach. Then, the huge demonic sword got in the way of the staff, making it shake all over the place. It was like he hit a steel door with a sledgehammer. Good Kami. Be careful, Hiruzen, my head hurts. Enma yelled from inside the staff, and Sarutobi did nothing but nod. No time to talk, Sarutobi, you're in the middle of a fight, a voice from behind him said. He turned around and slammed his staff at Naruto, but Naruto hit him with his sword again, making a sound like steel clanging around the area. Then, in the fast-paced Kenjutsu battle, they both vanished. Soon, metal against metal could be heard all over the Konoha forest. Many shinobi got ready because they could feel that all of their chakra signatures were coming from the same place. Each time the two enemies hit each other with their weapons, the impact broke trees. That is, until a pained scream came from the forest. Then Hiruzen's body shot out of the forest and landed on the ground, bleeding heavily from many wounds. His staff was still by his side, but it was cracked, which showed that Enma was also hurt. Over his shoulder, Naruto Chaos Eater came out with a deadly look in his eyes. The sudden spark of playfulness in his eyes was gone. He wanted to leave Konoha as soon as possible. Hiruzen, I'm done playing games. Let's end this now. Naruto said, and Hiruzen didn't even notice when Naruto appeared in front of him and hit him with a giant fist, breaking his jaw and teeth. Hiruzen's body then shot off toward Konoha, hitting trees along the way and hurting itself even more. Now that was out of the way, Naruto turned to Kushina and Makoto. Makoto looked at him with eyes filled with awe and amazement. He saw this, but he didn't worry about it for now. Instead, he walked up to them for a moment. Kushi-chan, I know you're strong, don't get me wrong, but right now you're at your weakest, so I want you to put this on your seal holding Kyuubi. It's the best fuinjutsu I've made so far, and it will protect you and Miss Makoto as well, he said, handing Kushina a small piece of paper with a design of a seal similar to the Uzumaki fuinjutsu. She was good at math, which was something her father and clan praised her for, so she was able to figure out that it was some kind of reversal seal. It was the same array seal on her stomach that held Kyuubi, but the design was very different, and a few of the array lines were put together differently than the others. What does this seal do, Naru-kun? I don't know, she said with a cute pout, since she was very proud of her ninjutsu, but this one seemed so complicated. With a bit of a laugh, Naruto turned toward Konoha and said, "Just put that on your seal, and you'll know soon enough. Have fun," he said with a big grin. One that he hasn't done in 10 years. With that, Naruto ran through the forest, breaking any trees that came in contact with him. He knew he was going to charge right into the hornet's nest, but he didn't care. He wasn't just doing this for Kushina. He was also doing it for his clansmen who had been betrayed the night before. He's going to make Konoha feel true pain. Kushina blinked and then yelled, "Damn, Naru-kun can be so confusing sometimes." Makoto just laughed at how childish her friend was being. "Well, aren't you going to use it?" she asked the redhead, making her stop and rub her head sheepishly. "Right, I'm sorry, I kind of forgot, he, she said, and then she sent chakra to the seal and put it on her own seal, which was holding Kyuubi. Inside of her mind, Kyuubi saw the seal that Naruto gave her, but she still didn't know what it was for. It was much more confusing than any other fuinjutsu she had seen, even more than her first Kantainer's work, which was done by Uzumaki Mido, who was a god at fuinjutsu. I wonder what this seal does. Then Kushina put it on her seal. A bright light came out of the outside world, and Kyuubi felt a sudden pull on the inside. She looked at the mindscape and saw that it was normal, but that it was slowly going away. She was shocked when she looked at the Uzumaki seal and saw that instead of being a lock and key, it was now doing the opposite and slowly opening the big gates in Kushina's mind. Kyuubi's eyes lit up with understanding, and she gave a sly grin. "Oh Naru-kun, you're good." Outside. When Kushina suddenly let out a bright light, Makoto had to close her eyes or risk hurting her eyes. The light lit up a large part of the forest. All of a sudden, it started to get dimmer, and then it was gone. Makoto opened her eyes and was shocked by what she saw. In front of her was a woman who looked like a goddess and was Kushina's twin sister. That's when she noticed the differences between the woman and Naruto. She saw the wild whisker marks on the woman's face and her crimson fox eyes, which were scary but not as scary as Naruto's. That's when she saw the two key parts that helped her figure out who it was: 2 fluffy orange fox ears and 9 flowing orange foxtails on her backside. The Kyuubi no Kitsune was out, and she didn't look at all like what the stories said she was. She was right in front of Makoto, gently hugging Kushina and wrapping her 9 tails around her to protect her. She saw that Kushina was just as shocked as she was. They both thought that when she put the seal on, a lot of things would happen, but nothing like this. "KKQ-chan?" Kushina spoke, and Naruto's longtime friend Kushina looked at her with wide violet eyes. The one she never thought in her wildest dreams would be out here with her and never be able to leave the seal on her stomach, which was shocking enough. Gone. "Hello, Kushina-chan. My real name is Akemi, not Kyuubi. Kyuubi is just a title." "Kitsune no Akemi, he," said Akemi with a sheepish look on her face as she laughed. Kushina only needed to blink once, twice, or 3 times. "Oh, I owe Naruto-kun so much for doing this," she said, still getting used to the name. Looking her way, Akemi asked, That's when Kushina's face broke into a sly grin. "Would you mind telling me about that little outburst Naruto had before? Or the way you've been calling him kun in such a suggestive way?" At the end of her sentence, she said, which was meant to be a joke. Akemi just blushed because she knew she was trapped and couldn't end the conversation with a mental link this time. Damn it. Well. Having Naruto. Even though the giant Uzumaki was only a few feet away from Konoha, he could still feel all of its shinobi moving toward the place where Sarutobi was said to have landed. He wondered for no reason if the cage had survived the attack, since he had hit him pretty hard. Naruto shrugged his shoulder and looked back over his shoulder. When he saw a bright light where Kushina and Makoto were, he gave a small smile. "I hope you like my gift to you, Kushina, and to you, Kyuubi. After all you've done for us both, you deserve to be free from this prison." With that, Naruto jumped again and landed on a branch that looked out over Konoha. If you looked at the city as a whole, you might think it was calm, but Naruto knew better. The city was in a state of chaos, with their leader, the cage, smashed and bloody after being thrown through many buildings and into the streets. He knew where Sarutobi went because the buildings he crashed through were in a straight line, leading to the streets where people lived. "Perfect," he said with a smile as he saw many shinobi and regular people all in the same place. With that, he went away, leaving nothing behind but a gust of wind. Naruto was about to put his title to the test and leave Konoha in a state of disaster in an open war with Konoha's shinobi. The roads in Konoha. Both civilians and shinobi were shocked or scared by what they saw. There was a huge crowd of both types of people around the body of their Hokage, the fierce leader who fought in all 3 wars and was known as the Kami no Shinobi. Was nothing but a bloody, broken man. His body was leaking blood, and his jaw was completely broken, but miraculously, it was still there and could be fixed. His staff was in his hand next to him. Everyone could see that the man kept falling back down to his knees when he tried to stand up. The shinobi all wondered what was going on and why their Hokage was acting like this. Well, they found out when Hiruzen's eyes got really big and scared, and a second later, Naruto's giant form showed up in front of Hiruzen's body and scared the living daylights out of everyone. His huge, towering, muscled form made many people go white with fear. His scary reputation was only made worse by his huge, demonic Zanbato. Hiruzen, you look so pitiful in front of all these people. It's a shame. Naruto said this, ignoring the angry looks the Konoha shinobi were giving him. Or, surprisingly, looks of lust from a few of the women in the huge crowd. Hiruzen looked at the man who had hurt him and coughed up blood. After a quick glance at his staff, he spoke. Naruto. To have actually come here. In Konoha, I don't know if you're brave or stupid, he said, knowing that when he said the name, Naruto, the shinobi quickly tensed up. He knew that the name made his shinobi either ready to fight or quit the shinobi life for good. What does that matter? No matter what I have to go through, I don't care. I do have Kushina back, but this isn't just for her. This is for how you and your sensei betrayed the Uzumaki clan. I'm here to take that symbol off your shinobi's backs. They don't deserve to wear it since they've betrayed us from the start. He said, shocking everyone except Hiruzen, who had a grim look in his eyes. But it was for Konoha's good. He yelled in protest. Wrong thing to say. What did you just say? Naruto said this with a dangerous look in his eyes. When Naruto took a step forward and his foot hit the ground, Hiruzen tensed up. Hiruzen suddenly jumped back and slammed his staff into the ground, even though he was hurt. Everything I and the other Hokages have done was to protect Konoha, even if it meant sacrificing many people. It still brought us peace. Naruto's eyes just got more dangerous when they couldn't get any worse. You've put your name on a death warrant, Sarutobi. No, today is your death, and I will make sure I succeed where my students have failed. Two monkey hands and Enma's head came out of the staff. Enma yelled. I'm sorry, Naruto Dono, but this is the will of my summoners. Ninpo. Kongo Reki. Adamantine prison wall. With that, many copies of the staff closed in on Naruto, making a wall around him that was like a prison. Naruto, on the other hand, seemed pretty bored by the whole thing. Hiruzen smiled because he knew he had Naruto locked up and that not even his student Tsunade's strongest attacks could break the prison. Enma did look embarrassed though, that he had to lock up the most respected person in the whole summon realm. Hiruzen spoke while leaning on his staff and pulling himself up to the prison wall. You're done, Naruto. That prison you're in is completely unbreakable. You've lost, he said, thinking he had won and beaten Kumo Iwa and Konoha's terror for good. He was the strongest person in all of the elemental nations who had beaten the most terrifyingly strong being. He was so wrong at the time. Well, I have to say, this is quite a prison. No normal person, no matter how strong, could break this, no matter how hard they tried. He talked to himself. So you're admitting that you lost? Hiruzen was confused by how Naruto was acting and asked. No. I said that a normal person couldn't break it. You see, you've forgotten you little detail, Sarutobi. He said, making Hiruzen tense. What do you mean? She asked, wondering why the man was so calm given the situation. Naruto just made a fist with his right hand and held it up to talk. Hiruzen, I was able to beat a Biju by myself, and not just any Bijua, it was the Hachibi with 8 tails. Do you remember how I did it? He asked with a laugh in his voice. Hiruzen's eyes get very big when he thinks about how he did something so amazing. You're right. I did it with just my strength. He said, and before anyone could react, Naruto's fist slammed right into the prison wall, making it creak in protest before giving up and falling apart. Naruto then got out of the hole he had dug himself and said, Now. I think I needed to finish you, he said as he walked toward Hiruzen, who was on the ground and unable to get up because of his injuries. After that one hit, Enma was knocked out because the pain was transferred to it. Without the help of the staff, he would have been nothing but an old man. When he saw Naruto's shape and how his eyes were staring down at him, he knew for sure what kind of being he had angered. He saw that it was a being that fought Biju and beat up armies. He can now see that the stories and rumors about the man in front of him are all true. Now. Die, he said, drawing his sword to stab the man through the heart. One Konoha shinobi yelled, "Stop right there." Because he wasn't going to let this keep going. Yeah, you think we're just going to let you kill our cage? If you haven't noticed, Mr. Legend, you're surrounded on all sides. Shouted a shinobi who looked proud. Naruto raised an eyebrow and looked around. He saw that all the civilians had left, and he guessed that they had been taken to the Hokage monument for safety. All he could see around him was a sea of Konoha shinobi. Then the options came up, and he smiled. Oh, you want to stop me? Then come and give it a try. And then he sent out a huge pulse, which spread 3/4 of that huge force in the same way it had spread to the people before them. The shinobi who yelled at him now looks shocked. "WWW, what was that?" A shinobi stuttered. "Hiruzen, I think you should stop getting mad at people who can kill you. Let me show you what real pain is, seeing the things you love most being destroyed right in front of your eyes. Let me show you what real pain is by watching your home be destroyed, just like I watched my home and Kushina's home be destroyed that night when you didn't come to help us." When Naruto yelled, Hiruzen's eyes grew huge because he knew what the man was about to do. "No." He yelled, but no one heard him. Naruto raised his left fist to show a blue sphere wrapped around it, completely covering his fist. "Watch Hiruzen with just this fist. I will bring Konohagakure to its knees." And with that, Naruto slammed his fist into the ground with his hand. Soon, Konoha started to shake in a way that no one could stop. Buildings all around began to fall apart or sink. The land itself moved, destroying the Konoha walls and cracking and breaking the Hokage tower. Naruto brought his fist up again, but this time he swung it around and hit the stunned shinobi in the face. He punched the air, which sent out a shockwave that blew them all away and broke the buildings in its way. Explosions went off all over Konoha, setting it on fire, and the smoke and ash that rose into the air turned the sky black. Hiruzen saw all of this happen as a single man did it all with his fist. He finally understood what he had done wrong. All of his careful planning had led to this moment, but now his village was in a mess. Just as Iwa, Kumo, and Suna were left in charge of the Uzumaki clan. With Kushina, Akemi and Makoto. As soon as Naruto started destroying Konoha, all three of them could feel the tremors and shockwaves coming from there. They were very interested, so Akemi brought Kushina and Makoto close enough to see what was going on. So when they finally saw what was going on, they were completely blown away by the show. Konoha was in total disaster. It was like nature was mad at Konoha and sent 10 times as much anger as usual. "Kami. I really want to go with you, Kushina-chan," she said. Makoto said this as she watched the whole village she used to work in burn and break up. She asked, "Why is that?" "Because I know that with Naruto being the way he is, the adventures he would go on would be great, and living a life of peace is a bit boring for me, if you'll let me?" She asked Akemi. I don't think Naru-kun would have a problem, but he will still watch you for a while. You'll just have to earn his trust along the way." Makoto nodded in agreement. "No problem." With that, she said as she looked at how badly Konoha had been destroyed. The destruction of this village. Thank you, Kami, for not only giving us a big, handsome Adonis but also one who hates Konoha as much as I and Kushi-chan do." Akemi spoke with her hands together as if she were praying. Kushina just shook her head at the display and thought about what she and Akemi had talked about. She wasn't too surprised by what Akemi told her. Over the years that she had known Naruto, Akemi had also grown to care about him, which turned into love. And now, 10 years later, she still felt the same way. Strangely, she didn't mind sharing Naruto if it came down to it, as long as it was just her and Akemi. But there was still Makoto, and she remembered seeing his form when she thought no one was looking. If what you said was true, Makoto-chan, I think it's time we went down there and talked about what we should do next with the Uchiha clan. Naruto won't leave without also stopping by to see them. Kushina said, making Makoto frown. I don't care what happens to them, because they are all corrupt and full of pride. Fugaku's ideas have turned the proud clan I loved as a child into a shadow of what it used to be. I'd like it if Naruto killed them, she said with anger in her eyes. Both Kushina and Akemi nodded because they knew why she hated her own clan so much. They were both told why, and even Akemi felt sick when she heard it. Most of the Uchiha clan, including the clan elders, had become so full of themselves that they began to think they were stronger than Kami herself. Makoto was the only one who spoke up. She thought they were royalty and should be treated as such. When she did, the whole clan jumped on her back. Fugaku had gone to the council and decided to make her a slave who did whatever he wanted. At that point, Kushina had gotten rid of her anger by punching a tree, which she did so hard that it broke into pieces. Kushina put her hand on her shoulder and said, "Don't worry. Like I said, if there's one thing Naruto hates more than anything else, it's your clan and the way you treat women like Fugaku does. I promise they'll get theirs soon." Makoto just smiled and hugged her back, wiping a tear from her eye. Akemi said, "It's time to go," and Kushina grabbed Makoto and clung to Akemi's body. Then, in the blink of an eye, they were gone. Having Naruto. As he looked at his work and was happy with it, Naruto turned to the very quiet Sarutobi who was looking at his village. "I would have kept doing this and destroyed the Hiruzen monument, but there are children up there who can change Konoha, so I will be a real monster. I'm giving Konoha a second chance so that the next generation can make Konoha a better place. Remember what happened this day, Hiruzen, because if you don't and you keep lying and cheating, I'll come back and the next time I won't leave anyone alive. Everyone will be killed. Do you understand?" At the end, his voice sounded demonic, and it could be heard all over the area where the Konoha village was on fire. Hiruzen just turned his head to look at Naruto. He had heard every word he said, and he was grateful in the deepest parts of his soul. Glad that the man in front of him was giving them another chance. But when he saw the giant man and the fires and destruction of his village looming over him, showing what he had done, his golden amber eyes with slits in them made him think that Naruto was an apparition. It looked so evil that he had to hold on to his heart and soul as tight as he could, afraid that just seeing this ghost would rip them out of his body. So afraid was he of the man in front of him that he started to see things. Right? "I understand" means that I know Hiruzen passed out because of everything that has happened and because he is hurt. With this, Naruto nodded and turned away to wait. They should be here very soon. Then, Akemi came out with Kushina and Makoto in her arms a second later. When they showed up out of nowhere, Naruto looked at them until he saw Akemi. "Hello Kyuubi, nice to see you," he said, not caring much about the damage around him. Akemi was the same way, and she even liked the chaos and death going on around her. Put her at ease so much. Hey, she was a demon who liked to cause trouble. To you, too, Naruto-kun. My name is Kyuubi, but that's just a title. My real name is Akemi, she said, and Naruto just raised an eyebrow and nodded. Akemi, huh? He pointed at Makoto and said, "Nice name." Kushina, did you find out why she was so reluctant to come with us? Kushina did nothing but nod and say, "Well, it all began with her family."
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.